Hey, today I'm going to be walking you through how we produce a documentary video for one of the top photography galleries in the world. For this project, our client is the Image Center Gallery at the Toronto Metropolitan University. We're going to be taking a closer look at the video we produced for the exhibition Lee Miller, a photographer at work. We got to do coverage of the exhibition as well as interview both the curator as well as Lee Miller's granddaughter, Amy. One of the things I really enjoyed about this project specifically on an ongoing basis is us needing to find really interesting talking head compositions within the space. There's often really large-scale photography and also really beautiful colors that they use for the walls or mood lighting. So we really look for kind of little nooks that when abstracted, they create a really beautiful environment. You can see in this interview shot that we really used the environment to frame the subject. On the left, we have this huge kind of wall print of this iconic photo by Lee Miller. And on the right, we have the sort of smaller images that make up more of the gallery. And in between, we use the gap and the sort of curtain between the more graphic elements of the show, where it deals with war a lot more, to create a beautiful backdrop for our subject to sit in. I really love finding these kind of moments, and that's really one of the pleasures of doing these shoots. So the documentaries that we make are not really supposed to replace the experience of coming to the space, but really tease that curiosity and get people to come to a show that honestly they might not even ever considered of coming to before. This show kind of coincided with the launch of the movie Lee itself and the kind of Oscar buzz around that film. So it was really great to have that connection for people to go see this biopic and also then go see the real work, the prints, the notes that Lee created, the real story behind Lee Miller, not just the kind of Hollywood version. So that was our goal with this video series specifically. And that's also the balance we try to strike, is always taking, the strategic goals of our client and really thinking about how we can amp them up to the next level using our creativity. When we're on location shooting, we're really there to do three things. The first one is really get an experience ourselves of the space and the environment and really have that literal experience of what a viewer of the show might have. The next thing we go into is we shoot B-roll of the exhibition. 3 is we do 2 interviews. One was with a curator, someone who is responsible for really driving the show forward. And then the second interview is whoever the person is, that the show is about. When working on videos that have an interview component, one of the main things our clients wonder is how we get really evocative answers from everyday folks. And we do that in a few different ways. So first of all, usually we like to have our client draft the first set of questions. And there might be a little anxiety with this, but don't worry. Those questions don't need to kind of have the final answer come out of them. We're gonna use those just as a guide to kind of direct our interview. And we kind of lean into this process and we kind of have this back and forth. We'll ask them one of your questions, they'll give us a reply, and then we'll follow up with a few extra questions. And to them, it seems like we're just having a conversation, but on my end in the background, these are all strategic things that we're using to get all the building blocks we need to make that final video come together. And whether it's someone who just needs a bit of a confidence boost or someone who you need to very sensitively walk through a topic, we've got you covered. And we love talking to real people. Our real goal is to make everyday individuals look like heroes. Now moving on to post-production. How do we take all those raw ingredients and cook a delicious meal out of them? I would say, have a real knack for taking interviews and crafting them into really dynamic storylines. And that's the thing we really love doing. And I think one of the reasons we do that so well is because we do all the editing in-house internally. I'm a really big believer that that's where the real video comes together. The first thing that we do is we listen through all of the interviews and we really get a sense of what are those key tentpole topics that this video should cover. Again, this kind of ties back to the strategy of our client. And then from there, we try to land in kind of a cohesive dialogue that we can present to our client. The final element that we use is music. So really we find music that supports the show. So in our most recent shoot with them, we did a show on space photography. And that had a very different soundtrack, than a fashion show or an art show. So all those 3 elements combined, we kind of have created a format where each video feels familiar, but because all the details in those 3 elements is changing from shoot to shoot, each video ends up feeling really fresh, really unique, and also representative of the exhibition that it's showcasing. A lot of our work at the studio is one-off projects, but for the Image Center, we produce content on an ongoing basis, and there's a lot of benefits for them for doing it this way. The first thing is you save a lot of time. We can literally book a shoot over a course of 1 or 2 emails. We know exactly all the equipment that's being brought in, everyone there knows us as well, so getting in the space is super smooth. And then once we're in there, we already have an established way of working, so they know how much demand from their team's time is needed on the day, as well as before and after. Similarly, after the fact, there doesn't need to be as much communication of really trying to figure out what is the story, what is the feel. Having done this on an ongoing basis, each time we're sort of iterating and improving it. So each time the video keeps getting better and better without you having to put a ton of notes, kind of like re-educating that person up onto the kind of video that you want. Add to that, there's huge cost savings. When we negotiate a year's worth of content, you're able to lock in bulk pricing so that each video is a little bit cheaper and that you're able to actually produce more content for the same amount of money throughout the year. Really enjoyed walking you through this. If you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comments below and make sure you hit subscribe. We're going to be doing more of these breakdowns, deep dives, and explainers for you. So again, if you have any questions, let us know and we'll catch you in the next one.